Everybody. Well, thank you so much for coming. This is our second public meeting for our Trails project, so we're really excited to see you here and hope that you take the information that you hear tonight and spread it back out through your neighborhoods, through your contacts, and really help us get as many people as we can to get involved in this project. The more public feedback we have, the better this whole thing goes. So a couple of housekeeping items, then I'll turn it over to Allie, who is our consultant from BSC. We have a sign-in sheet, obviously, that's going around. This is your sort of portal to connect to us and get emails on upcoming meetings, when there's trail documents for you to look at, links to the website, that kind of thing. So make sure if you haven't already signed up to receive communications from us that you do. We also right now have a survey going on, and we have some posters that have the website of the survey, as well as there's posters up around the room. They've got little QR codes you can scan, or you can take the website down. We're trying to get as many folks to respond to that survey as possible. I think we've got about 130 or so people who've responded so far. We'd like to double those numbers. And so we're keeping the survey open until June 30th, and we're just asking everybody to really spread the word about it. So if folks are watching at home, if they go on to the Conservation Commission's webpage, you can get to the survey from there as well. And then the last thing we have are some trail count forms. In addition to the survey, one of the things that we're trying to do is get a little bit of a sense of how many people are using the trails at given times, in what locations, what days of the week. So we're asking folks if they're interested in going out to the trails for about a 2-hour block to just count people that walk by, or ride a bike by, or walk a dog by, or any of the above. If folks are interested in that kind of project to help us take a survey of who's actually out there on the trails, just go ahead and see me before the end of the meeting, or if you're watching at home, just call the conservation office and we can get you set up with these trail count forms and tell you how to help us work on that part of the project. So again, these are all things that we're doing to try to get as much interaction and as much feedback on what's going on out there as we can. So with that, I will not take up too much time speaking. I will turn it over to Allie, and we'll go from there.
Hey, everybody. So I'm going to be going over a couple of items. Most of them are updates or summaries of some of the survey results that we have already received, as well as information that we received from the public meeting, the first one. And then I'll be providing you with some updates of things that I've been doing in the field in the past couple of months since our last meeting. But I just wanted to make sure that we start off by saying, you know, what the project purpose is. We want to make sure that all the feedback that we're providing and the goals that we're working on are the goals that were reflected in the open space and recreational master plan for Hingham. These are some of the factors that we're looking at when we're going to be creating the comprehensive trail map. So protection of natural and cultural resources, enhancing of existing trails, assessments of further recreational opportunity within other neighborhoods in Hingham, development of connections, and that's the big topic that we're going to be speaking about today, looking at connections between trails and public properties and schools and other recreational facilities, as well as developing connections between existing parks. This is just the overview of the project timeline. A lot of you have already seen this graphic before, so we're in number 2 right now. We did have our first public meeting in April 7th, and then the steering committee and the stakeholders met in May. And then we took all of the information that was shared during the public meeting, as well as the information from the surveys, and put it all together in terms of recommendations from the trail committee and the stakeholders that we're going to be looking at those today. So this is kind of like an overview of the information that was received during the first public meeting. And I did bring copies of this table so that we don't have to go over it. But a lot of the information that was presented is actually included already in the maps that we're going to be looking at later on today. In terms of the natural and cultural resource protection, and then existing property improvements, partnership opportunities, potential property acquisitions, and other input that we received during the public meeting, those will all be included and discussed in the comprehensive trail plan. But if you do have any additional feedback that's not related to the trail connections that we're going to be discussing today, definitely let me know, or let Abby know, or put it in writing, send Abby an email, because that will be making it into the trail plan itself. We're going to be looking at it and discussing every single point or input that we receive from the public. So in terms of the trail mapping efforts, I'm pretty much done. Yay! Unless you guys realize that I missed something, and then I'll go back and finish. But I did go to the Hingham cemeteries this weekend, and I was able to go to South Elementary School, which was a link that was missing. And we have currently existing about 45 miles of trails in Hingham. Did you guys know that? I mean, Bear Cove is big, so you would assume that Bear Cove has a big chunk of them, and we are going to be looking at them and dividing up the information by park to provide it to the public. That's probably the biggest one, followed by George Washington. But that's a lot of miles of trails to maintain. So this map is not very good to look at on the projector itself, but I do have a copy of the map. This is the existing trails, and that's the copy of the existing trails map. The existing trails are in the maps that we're going to be looking at connections later on today. However, the existing trails are really toned down. Some of you may have difficulty seeing it, and the reason why we do that is because we really want to be focusing on the trail connections and not the existing trails. But if you do want to kind of compare and contrast between the connections and the existing, you can always take one of these maps over there and kind of look at it and see where it is exactly that we would want to link a connection with an existing trail. The existing trail maps also includes areas where there are trailheads. You're going to see this little green guy on the map, so you can definitely see where the entrances to the different parks are. As Abby was explaining, there was an online survey going on. When I looked at it, there were about 100 individuals that had completed the survey. 95% of them were from Hingham. Not surprising. Although we did have residents from Weymouth, Cohasset, and Braintree and Hull complete the survey, which is great. I posted it on my Facebook page, and hopefully someone from my Facebook completed it, because I know I do have a lot of friends that recreate in Hingham. So I'm hoping that they provide feedback. Abby mentioned this is going to be open until June 30th, so please make sure that you complete the survey. It's pretty straightforward. It provides us with a lot of the information that we're going to be needing to make sure that our plan covers as much input from the public as possible, and we cover as much of your needs and desires as possible. And then, like Abby mentioned, there's also field observation surveys that will be going on. These are mostly passive, so it's a person standing and collecting information about what they're seeing in the individual parks. So here's a little summary table of what people are doing in the Hingham parks. So the majority of the people are walking and hiking. I was surprised to see the biking number is pretty high too, and running, and then walking dogs. Walking dogs is big in Hingham, and there is a lot of tension between dog owners and individuals. Well, dog owners off leash, dog owners on leash, non-dog owners. So that's something that we will be also discussing in the plan and working with the town to, figure out solutions to make sure that everybody has their space and their time and place, and, the dogs are also happy. I was surprised that no one from the hunting community completed the survey. So if anybody at home that hunts is looking at the survey, I know there's how many permitted in Hingham? 15, 10?
Properties?
Or bow hunters with permits?
There are, about 25.
About 25. It would be nice to see those 25 people complete the survey just to get a little bit more information on hunting in Hingham. Some of the improvements or trail priority improvements, it's pretty much evenly distributed, which is interesting. So individuals are interested in seeing marked trailheads, property boundaries being marked so that they can tell when they're going to private property versus public property, handicap accessibility, trail maps, having those available to the public seems to be something that's definitely needed. So you can see it's evenly distributed. So there is a need for all these things at the same time, which is interesting to see, at least from my perspective. Some of the additional comments that we received in terms of trail improvements were providing with zipline and rope courses, assigning dog off leash and dog off leash areas, improving access, mitigating poison ivy, making trail information more publicly available, which is something that the town is working on, making sure that they provide that on the website, off-road biking opportunities, and then interpretive signs for flora and fauna, what it is that you're looking at while you're hiking, maybe some of the cultural resources as well. In terms of trail connectivity and what was prioritized online, these are some of the connections that were supported by the individuals completing the online survey. My favorite one is the one on the bottom, which says any connection would be valuable. And I think that's true. That's perfect. Most of these are also considered in the maps that you're going to be seeing in the back. So definitely keep these in the back of your head, as well as the ones that were discussed during the first public meeting, and then the ones that are presented, just to make sure that we're covering as many bases as possible. The Harbor Walk seems to be the the one that everybody wants. And I know that there is a master plan for the Harbor Walk, and that's something that the town has been working on. And there is one particular map dedicated to the Harbor Walk. Other comments, some of them are actually really interesting, really good. I like the fact that trail information at the T commuter stations, especially because one of the T stations is right across the street from Bear Cove, and I don't know if individuals recognize that they can take that T there and then go for a long hike at Bear Cove. Reopening town forests, which is something that we're trying to prioritize trail connectivity to town forests to highlight the importance of having the town forest accessible to the public. Information about where the trails are, rules, regs, parking, more open space acquisition, and then focusing on improving the existing parks. And that's why I wanted to make sure, 45 miles of trail is a lot to maintain. So making sure that those trails are maintained and open and accessible for people to be able to enjoy. This is one of the link maps. So this is one of the maps that's in the back. And then I wanted to make sure these are the 6 priority links that the steering committee and the stakeholders discussed during the last meeting. And as you can see, we're covering pretty much every single corner of Hingham. And we wanted to make sure that's what we were focusing on, pretty much giving all of Hingham an opportunity to have some kind of trail connection, whether it be trail connections through the downtown area, particular shops, schools, Wampatuck State Park, or the TTOR properties. We've also looked at connections to Weymouth, Cohasset, and Norwell. And Norwell. They're not included in these maps, but they're also going to be a point of discussion within the comprehensive trail map. And we are also looking into a water trail through the north of the harbor. So this is the priority link 1. So this is the Harbor Walk, and it might not be 100% what's reflected on the master plan for the Harbor Walk. This is more of what we know on the grounds to be more doable. So both the Harbor Walk master plan as well as this link will be discussed in the comprehensive trail map. But definitely, Abby and I were just talking about it. We already recognize that there may be some issues over from Starter's Neck connecting over to the Hingham shipyard in terms of proximity to the water. We obviously want to make sure that we're as close to the water as possible just because it's prettier, but at times that may not be possible because there's not enough room. But definitely something to take a look at when you're looking at these trail connections on the maps. If you have information about some of the private property that may be on the way, or you have information about existing trails that we're unaware of, or you say, oh, I think it would be better to connect it through this street instead of that street because there's a sidewalk on this one or there's a better crosswalk on the other one. I don't live in Hingham. I've never been a Hingham resident. Lived in Quincy, worked in the Blue Hills, but never in Hingham. And so I've done my best to try to walk as much of this as possible, but I haven't gotten to everything. So if you do have any specific information or particular recommendations of places that I should be looking at or places that I should be moving the connections to, definitely write it on the map. This one includes a connection through National Grid property. And that's something that Abby's been in conversation with National Grid to see whether or not they would allow public access through the right-of-way. And then there's other conversations going on potentially with the Foster School? No, which is the private one that's over there? It's in blue. Derby Academy, yes. And so you're going to see some of the properties that are highlighted in blue are properties that are kind of like on the cusp that we're trying to make sure that we get permission to go in there and GPS some of the trails so that we can actually show it on a public map. The other one would be the Abbey. So this is priority link number 2, and these are in no way in any order. This is just the way I ordered them on the PowerPoint. So it would be the George Washington State Forest to Wampatuck State Park. There's different available ways of getting there. The most interesting one was one that was brought up by our steering committee member, and it's a potential pedestrian easement off of Mass Hill Road. We're trying to figure out where that is exactly. So we're doing a little bit of research on that, because otherwise the connection would likely occur on existing roadways. Another one of the connections that we're looking at is a connection between the Pioneer School, the Liberty Pole Road community, Cushing Street, and the South Elementary School trails, even the possibility of connecting it across the street to Aquarian, which then would connect it to the George Washington State Forest. And And over here we have private property, conversations as well. There are existing connections, a little bit overgrown in certain places, especially the Pioneer Road connections, that all they need is a little trim back, and there are safer ways for the kids to get to school instead of having to take the roads. Although I do know a lot of these kids actually bike, which is, it's very fun to see them in the morning coming in their bikes. So if you have, again, information about potential individuals who would be willing to allow for an easement or pedestrian access, through the side of their yard into Hingham property, that'd be great. We're also looking at the Crestfield community connection to the Derby Street shops. There aren't a lot of sidewalks, and the speed limits around this area are pretty high, or people just go pretty fast, and so it's very unsafe. This is one of the parcels that was recently acquired by Hingham, the Recreation Park Drive parcels. And there are some existing trails in there that connect to the Deerfield Road cul-de-sac that could potentially connect to the Recreation Park Drive, and then connecting to the Crestfield Park. Do people here know where Crestfield Park is? Yeah. It's amazing. There's so many toys. So many carts. Like, what is this place? Yeah. And so there is already a link back there. It's a little bit overgrown, but it connects through the fence line into the animal hospital to Recreation Park Drive. So that's another conversation to have, whether or not they would allow access through there or access through the senior citizen facility that's off of Recreational Park Drive. Another link that we're looking at is the Derby Academy Trail connection to the future Harbor Walk. Again, this is one of those places that I haven't been able to go in there and explore, but it's definitely one of the priorities. There is no map for it, although it is on the maps. So again, if you have any information, definitely feel free to let us know who we can contact or what kind of conversations, or if you know if there are trails back there already, which there are, but where they connect if you actively use them. It would be also interesting to connect to Governor Long Bird Sanctuary. Have people been there? Nice views. That's pretty much all there is right now. But there is the potential of some upland connections down to Otis Street. The Foster School has a trail. Are people aware of that? Behind the school, there's a trail that crosses through the hill and connects to Simmons Road. And there's a little cul-de-sac area at Simmons Road that could work great for like a day use area for the community, in addition to access for the kids to go to school. And I believe this is the final link that we're looking at, and it's would be connecting TTOR property to the George Washington bike path through the National Grid right away, and then through Foundry and Sydney Ponds. There is a big chunk here missing of the link. We didn't know where exactly to put this link, so if people are aware of areas where the link could go to connect it to TTOR, again, let us know and we'll take a look at it. So input that you guys can provide for us tonight would be anything from general input about the project itself. What would you like to see? It could range anything from ACEC to cultural historical resources to more horseback riding trails, anything. And then we would definitely be seeking specific feedback on the proposed links, whether or not you agree with the links, whether you think it'd be better locations for the links, whether you think there should be other links prioritized on the maps. So any kind of feedback that you can provide. And then in terms of next steps, we do have another public meeting after this one, and then we have a final presentation. We will be continuing to do outreach, seeking input from individuals, so definitely spread the word on the online survey, spread the word on the surveys within the parks. We're also looking for organizational partners to start building a volunteer basis and some environmental stewardship in the town. And again, if you have any questions, you can contact Abby at the Conservation Office. Yep. Yep.
So I think our steps, basically there's some folks in the room who are sort of leaders within our working group who are going to help us facilitate some of these conversations back at the tables. So the folks who are part of the working group can just raise their hands so people kind of know who you are. They are going to distribute themselves back around these various maps. And what we're going to do is essentially give you an opportunity to write your comments down through them. We're going to have if you have a comment, we want to make sure we get it as a number, number it on the actual map, and that will correspond to something that the facilitators are writing down. And that will help us organize when we go back to capture all of this information, be able to have it in an organized way. So if you were at the first meeting, it's a very similar sort of format that we did then. So with that, I don't know if you have more to add, or
Unless anybody has any questions? No? Or,
Is it appropriate to make comments about a couple of the 6 priority?
yes, it is.
On the last one that you had there that ties into Turkey Hill,
Mhm.
when there were the plans were coming together for the Greenbush line and so forth, I thought I remembered that there was going to be some sort of trail proposal. Was it along an abandoned track right of way to the Cohasset Railroad Station? And I don't know whether that's something that's been brought to your attention.
It was, but there was more information that came to light. Yeah.
Fortunately, long time that we closed until very recently. And last year it's been opened up. Parks have paved all roads in that area. To make it very
That's just been
very
recent
active
recent work, and it does connects right from the,
Here's the where is it there?
connects from the railroad station right to Wampatuck State Park.
But would it make sense to continue a trail so it would link up to Cohasset?
Cohasset.
The lake would be in the Wampatuck State Park.
Oh.
Which would eventually lead into Cohasset.
Okay, so it's on the other
Yeah.
In Wampatuck State Park, you go into that rail.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I'm just
and they
looking-
took those structures on down that were there for years, that were condemned and everything else. Kids were playing there, and they did not allow, the state would not allow
point
access
out where.
from the
Yeah.
park to the railroad station.
Is it shown here or?
Cohasset's not shown.
No, Cohasset is on this one though,
Okay.
on this map. And I was able to obtain from DCR the most updated information that they have on their trails, including the new rail trail, or the paved path. So I'm just looking at where exactly the train station is. That's what the meeting's all about.
Where's 3A?
Yep.
So where's 3A?
A little more, yeah, right there, yep.
Yeah. So the railroad station is.
Right, so right here.
Must be right here.
Okay.
And so this is an active rail line, but this is inactive? Okay.
Inactive.
This one's inactive, but this one's active.
This is a rail.
Yeah, this is the rail trail.
Okay.
And it's curved so that the planes during the war couldn't come down in a straight line and just take everybody out.
Huh.
That's why it's curved.
So in terms,
You can get off the,
At the
you can
station.
get on the train in Boston with your bike
Yep.
on weekends. Get off the train and go into Wampatuck Park.
so I guess the connection is, how do we get from the train station into the parcel or?
More Washington.
So I think
Hingham Trails to Wampatuck State Park.
And then around, got it. Okay.
Yeah, I think there would be an easy way to.
If not if it's active, yeah, not if it's an active rail line.
So it might be a good idea for folks who are interested in this part of the conversation to come up and chat here, and then for our facilitators to distribute themselves around the map. And folks can kind of, the maps have headings on them for the areas in town where we're trying to focus the comments. If you've got comments, again, about some other area and you're at a certain map, you can certainly feel free to make them, but we're just trying to kind of organize a little bit. So you can kind of work your way through the various maps, and if you want this conversation, then I'd come up and have that.
Very good.